welcome to the third edition of Women of Power. This is the first time we're doing it in Bengaluru. The first two editions were in Chennai. And Women of Power is a series by the News Minute where we feature and talk to women from various spheres of society, people who've been successful both professionally and personally, and we talk to them about a whole host of issues. And the first panel was a political one, and it featured two members of parliament, Mahua Moitra and Tamilachi Thangapandian. And the second panel was focused on women in films, and it had actor Parvati and singer Khatija Rahman. This, of course, is a panel that will focus on trans lives, trans rights, and trans choice, and what their message to the cishet society is, and how they can be better allies in the future. That's what our focus will be. And our first panelist is somebody who is very well known in Karnataka and across the country as well. Akkai Padmashali is a globally known activist who is the face of transgender welfare in Karnataka. For her activism, Akkai has received the Rajyotsava Prashasti, the second highest civilian honor in the state of Karnataka, and an honorary doctorate from the Indian Virtual University for Peace and Education. Akkai is also the first transgender person in Karnataka to register her marriage, and she is also one of the petitioners in the Supreme Court for marriage equality. She is an advisory member for the National Election Commission of India. Her memoir, A Small Step in a Long Journey, was recently published. Thank you so much for being here, Akkai. Our second panelist has come down from Chennai. Negha S is an award-winning trans actress, writer, activist, VJ, and speaker. Many hats she wears. Negha won the Government of Kerala Special Award for Women and Transgender Persons in 2022 for her performance in the film Antaram. She was working as a mental health counsellor at an NGO when she got the opportunity to act in a short Tamil film, and then from there she entered the world of showbiz. Negha is also a publisher. She is a part of the Queer Publishing House, which has published 50 books by queer writers, including a volume of poems by Negha herself. Thank you so much for being here today. And the moderator for this event is somebody very special, our very own Ragamalika Karthikeyan. She is the driving force behind this event. She's done all the groundwork and she will be moderating this event as well. Raga is a newsroom leader at the News Minute, currently focusing on special projects and audience revenue. She's been a journalist since 2009. Raga has worked deeply on LGBTQIA issues and is currently heading the Inclusive Newsroom project, which is a collaboration between the News Minute, Queer Chennai Chronicles, and Queer Beat, supported by the Google News Initiative. Inclusive Newsrooms has recently released the first LGBTQIA media reference guide in English, and the guide will also be released in Tamil this week. Raga has a background in policy. She was a legislative assistant to Members of Parliament Fellow in 2014, and she's also worked with Pragna, an NGO in Chennai, on gender violence project. Thank you, Raga. Or I think I should thank Raga for allowing me to be here. I will move on to a special person who's here, who is our guest today, the Consul General Designate in Bengaluru, Miss Hilary McGeachy. I hope I got that right. McGeachy is a career officer with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. She's previously served overseas in Delhi and in Berlin. In Canberra, she's worked in a range of foreign trade and strategy policy roles, including regional infrastructure and cooperation. And before we start a panel discussion, I request you to start off with the introductory speech. Thank you.
I think I should explain why I'm here and perhaps why you see an Australian government sign or symbol up on your side there. My name's Hilary McGeachy. I'm the Consul General Designate for Bengaluru. And what that means is we will soon start a consulate here in Bengaluru. So the Australian government will be doing more in Karnataka, more in Telangana. Until now, our colleagues in Chennai have been working across the whole of South India, and that is why we have a long-standing relationship and have been supporting this series. So I am very fortunate to have just arrived in Bengaluru this week, and this is the first event I've been to, the first time I've been out of my office. So I feel very fortunate. I'm delighted to be here. what I would say is, Negha, okay, we've just met. I've had maybe 1 minute's conversation with both of you. What's very apparent to me is I have a lot to learn, and I enjoy and will enjoy listening to you and hearing about your experiences, your perspective, and your leadership. Your backgrounds are incredibly eminent. I just heard the achievements of both of you. This event is about leadership. There is so much leadership in what I've heard already. So what I do know is inclusivity, safe environments are what we value, what we'll value in our own mission here as we start. But for me tonight, thank you for letting me come along. Lovely to meet you. I look forward to hearing about all the messages we have, and particularly your leadership in this field. So thank you.
The News Minute has been doing Women of Power, as Pooja said, for several months now. And for us to be able to do this on trans rights, lives, and joys during Pride Month, in partnership with the Australian Consulate, it's a great feeling, and I'm very excited to talk to both Akkai and Negha today. So, like Pooja said, we will be coming to the audience for questions soon. But before that, my questions to both Akkai and Negha today, and this is specifically called Trans Rights, Lives and Joys, because we talk a lot about struggles, and we will come to that. We will come to struggles, achievements, and everything else. But I want to start off with the joys part. So, what is it that both of you are happy about today? Can we start with that?
So just celebrating Akkai, celebrating my identity, being proud for whatever you are today. That's what the self-acceptance, the self-confidence, the self-respect that we all were struggling 25, 30 years ago, and today we are really enjoying through accepting our identities and sexualities. Fighting against the larger battle of social construct, the majoritarian, the totalitarian concept of society. And today, as a community, because of your gender and sexuality, fighting against the larger issues of the so-called notionized of your sex, gender, and sexuality. So just say, so I keep saying that, Ragamalika, society has a problem. If you wear skirt, there's a problem. If you eat meat, there's a problem. If you're white skin, black skin, there's a problem. If you're heterosexual or homosexual or lesbian or intersex person, there's a problem. Why we should justify society? So justify yourself. Live the way you want to. That's what I'm celebrating my pride.
Thank you so much. Negha?
Yes, after a long time that Women of Power is continue by this moment, I think so. So that is a big joy today, and start with a trans women, because trans women are women. So I'm so happy to say this. After that, after all the struggles, we are here, and we have this chat to speak about our stories. That is the really joy I feel today.
Thank you so much. And yes, trans women are women. I don't think anybody here has any questions or doubts about that. But if they do, I think we have answers, right?
Yeah, definitely. If they ask me, are you woman? I want to question back a person like Pooja. Who are to judge? Who are to question? Just an example. Because Pooja, those since 15 years, working, being part of the movement as ally, supporter, whatever you can call. But the society was always judgmental and deciding people's identities and sexualities, people's class and caste, people's, like religious or beliefs and faith in such content. So we want to question, who are to decide?
Absolutely. So my next question, Akkai, is to you. You're a very prominent social and political activist. You've had a long journey in social and political life. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got here? How did you get into the place that you are in today? How did you get into politics?
It was not so easy, Ragamalika, frankly telling, because 25, 30 years ago, as a community, you are being denied of your basic right, including your identity. Because of your gender identity and sexuality, you are being rejected, neglected by your own family institution, by your neighbors, by your friends circles, by your own localites, by your own neighbors, you get it? By your education institutions, including your class teachers, your friends and stuff like them. And this whole socialization of understanding the gender norms / gender stereotyping people's identity was really conflicting. Knowing that there's a confliction between my sex and psychology, which was 25 years ago, I did not have the guts to speak that issue to my parents, to my siblings, to my relatives, whoever it is. I think coming all those through as a person, I realized the feminine character at the age of 8 years. Then realized and I shared with my parents. They didn't accept. I tried to kill myself twice. At 11 and 12, I didn't die. On the 16th age, I revealed it to my brother, saying that I'm no more a boy. I'm a girl. I want to be like this. I think that was the first person in the family who accepted your voice, your existence, your feelings, your emotions. I think somehow I found that space in the family. After that, later on, coming, being into the so-called, the social gift, I would say, in the profession of begging, in the profession of sex work, was not so easy. Surviving for 4 years in that, so-called society, again, the trauma, the discrimination, the stigma that you go through, first because of your gender identity, number two because you're a sex worker, number three you're a beggar, number four you are not being part of such social construct as a man or a woman and not justifying the social construct norms. That was so disturbing. I think, how do you fight against that voice? If you go back to see since 1999 to 2022, you have a series of police cases and crises even today. Why? Because people are on streets. I should really remember whatever the today's Supreme Court honorable judgments have spoken about, recognizing transgender as equal citizens before Constitution of India on the grounds of Section 377's human sexuality judgments. I think it's because of the working class, the non-English speaking transgender Gujarats who are in streets in Bangalore. These 10 to 12 activists have brought the global change, and I'm being part of that 10 to 12 person, something that really enshrines me to celebrate my identity and to stand and speak for the rights of whoever cause it is. Saying that being a transgender woman, I am not really worried about my identity until we address issues of class discrimination, the caste discrimination, the religious minorities discrimination. How do you address education, employment? There's gender dysphoria, the so-called gender discrimination is concerned. How do you bring up these questions to the public realm? How do you speak about gender justice policies? How do you talk about the global inflation that affects me as a community? I think this is really I'm concerned about, but I think this also leaves with so much of questions. And I think the point what we were also raising about the political journey, I think my existence is politics. My identity itself is a politics. Politics means it's not about the so-called mainstreaming electoral politics, but still there needs to be change in that, or the so-called inclusive politics should be bringing up in such context. Maybe I'm going to talk to that in the upcoming session.
Thanks, Akkai. And like you said, yes, a lot of people's existence itself is political, and our lives are political just by being. So thank you so much for that. Negha, you have had a very interesting journey. You wear so many hats, as Pooja was saying. You are an RJ, you're a writer, you're a speaker, you have acted in great films, you started as a mental health counselor. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and, how do you manage to do all of these things?
I have no option because that I had to, whatever the option I had to do, so I survived that profession also. Before that, I have to say that in addition, I have to say that trans women are women. In today, the social media, people are asking. Today itself, one person commented that you are not a woman. You are just like a woman. So I have to say this daily, like trans women are women. Yes. Later, I just have to add this. After I ran away from my home, every trans person in India have to face this. They are homeless, they are jobless because they are discontinued their studies, because there is a lot of discrimination because of their feminine body, feminine voice and everything. There is also many body shaming and also in school. And also there is no sensation about gender identity, gender expression, sexual identity in schools and colleges. So there is no safe place for gender non-conforming kids also. I just rewound my life when I was 18. There is no safe place for me. I ran away from my home, so I have no certificates in my hand also. So later also, when I came out as a trans person, there is no working trans person. A lot of working persons, trans women in Chennai. So working for a trans woman is also a big dream. Sorry for my poor English. I'm learning English from Netflix,
No, you're great.
but I
You're great.
confidently say that. So on the time I need to survive in the society, which means I have some interested in arts and writing, but I don't have any platform on the time. So I just started working in an NGO. As they working for a trans person and LGBTQIA only. So I just started my mental health counselor. Later, one time the director came for the audition. That happened. Yes.
Especially, I mean, you talked about like running away from home and everything, and you don't really have like biological family support right now. So, as a person without family support, how difficult is it to make it in the film industry or to make it in, public life in that sense?
So it is really, really very hard. I have to say this because if you don't have any family support, as an individual, independent, trans, or any women living in the society will use you, abuse you. That's everyone, single women, single trans women going through this. So I was born after four elder sister in my family. So there is a huge expectation on me, like I'm a boy kid. Definitely I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. So yes.
Right. Thank you, Negha. Okay, moving on to a little bit more current affairs. You're one of the petitioners in the marriage equality case, and one of the only petitions which is a PIL, right? Everybody else is, I am in a relationship with another person, and this is affecting me directly. But you had your marriage registered quite a while back, and you're still fighting this case for marriage equality. And while the media at large is calling it like same-sex marriage, this does affect trans persons, right? So why are you fighting this case?
Why I should not fight this case, the question again brings back to this larger society. When this whole majoritarian and the totalitarian society who is wanting to decide and judge people's identity from a very narrow perspective, orthodox, patriarchy, thank you, Amin. Just cut my. This is my baby, Amin. So this society has took the liberty and its granted permission for deciding one community's issue, especially that we are from the intersex female to male transgender man to a lesbian to bisexual, pansexual, demisexual, asexual, multiple sexualities, multiple gender identities. I was really disturbed. 25 years ago, same situation. After Supreme Court judgment has come, same situation. How do you fight against? There are very, very few leaders in the movement in the country. And these leaders are again dominated by the upper class, English speaking, elite section who want to come to the phrase and stuff. If you ask me frankly, Ragamalika, I will please now. If you ask me frankly, is it marriage or your livelihood or bread and butter? I stand for livelihood, bread and butter than marriage. Marriage becomes my part of life. I want to enjoy my privacy. I also want to respect my relationship of marrying my opposite sex. People may assume that I'm a transgender woman, I'm not a biologically born female. I want to question society. Who is a woman? Who is a man? What is sex? What is gender? What is sexuality? And who decides this? Who has given the power to decide this? Who has the notion to decide this? And who has authority to decide this? When my autonomy should be decided by myself, and I decide you respect, I decide you accept, I decide you should really be part of my journey than judging people. In that context, you have seen what is happening in the recent past. As a community, from 1860s to 2009, we were criminals before the nation. 2009, the Honorable Delhi High Court said, consenting adults having sex in privacy is not punishable. Judgment spoke about the constitutional morality, and we were decriminals before the constitution. I think lakhs and lakhs of people, crores and crores of people, we celebrated our freedom in such manner. 2013, my Supreme Court of India overturned the Delhi High Court judgment and said you are a minuscule minority and India cannot accept this judgment. Hence, we are suspending the Delhi High Court judgment, and we were made re-criminals. And 2018, the Section 377 stuff, how such a colonial British rule law was affecting against one community on its grounds of gender identity and sexuality, which was not really able to compromise such. In that process, fighting against this notion, such colonial law in 21st century for largest democracy, it cannot be in such manner. So said, I was being part of that, like a petitioner to challenge on those grounds said. So I think today I feel so happy and pride and proud, if you ask me why. From criminalization to decriminalization to recriminalization to no more criminalization process, we have fought till today. And I feel so happy. Any movement, any community which is fought for about 25, 30 years, we have seen this success and justice. But what happens, the very unfortunate thing, the so-called rulers of this nation are asking to leave it to the parliament, leave it to the legislature house. My question is very simple. If you want to limit this issue to the parliament or to the legislature system, I would say you are immature to discuss and decide about our issue. I wouldn't compromise on this. When this whole society is thinking in the context of majoritarian, totalitarian, so bifurcating, so globally, so globalized in its thinking process or thought process, how do I accept this? So then I would really urge and demand that when people are standing before the Parliament House and they're saying that this is something called westernized culture, westernized notion, westernized epidemic. Oh, my sweetheart. Westerns, there are people who are human beings born. There are also heterosexuals, there are also homosexuals, there are also asexuals. In India, same thing also applies to us. In that manner, when people are standing before the Parliament and undermining one community is disrespecting my Constitution of India's morality. And I don't want to compromise on this, Ragamalika. So hence I would say, I would want it to be part of this marriage equality petition. It is not about same-sex marriages. It is not about trans rights, transgender marriages. It's about human identity marriages. If I am consent, if I mutually consent and willing to have a relationship, marriage, so what? Consent is a matter. Not your gender, not your sex, not your fat, not your, race matters here. It's about enjoying your relationship, accepting your existence of identity. How do you bring this discourse to the public realm is my concern. 21st century is still begging before the state for the identity and sexuality is a shame for the largest democracy. So then I would say my people should be the presidents, my people should be the prime ministers, my people should be the ministers, my people should be part of the parliament house, the legislature house to bring this huge amount of change. How my Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has fought for the rights of himself, for the Dalit communities, and how vice versa the Nelson Mandela fought for himself, fought for the rights of black people, and he became the president of the South African nation. So this is stated that the moment of activism should be in such manner. So hence I would say existing political structure, existing the so-called man, woman are unfit, are immature, are illiterate to decide and discuss about our issue. I think we are the appropriate people. So hence make space, give opportunities as guaranteed by the Constitution of India.
Thank you, Akkai. And absolutely, I think a political system which doesn't have equitable representation is not a system that can give us our rights. Negha, coming to you, what was the experience like working in Antaram? And you're the first trans actress to win a state film award. And that is no mean achievement. That is a big achievement, right? So can you tell us a little bit about your experience working in the film? And was the atmosphere inclusive? Was it friendly? And are you signed up for any other films now?
So even I don't know there is a category for transgender persons in Kerala. I didn't aware of it when I get the chance. I think one journalist, I forget their name, they wrote about it like after the independence, 7 decades, since there is a lot of trans representations in media, and there is no trans artist recognition in media also. They said when I got that award. I was so happy, first of all, because finally the gate was open for me, for my community as well. As if my story is valid, if my presentation is valid, there also my community's presentation there. So I have a lot of complex about my identity, about my body, my gender diaspora, is everything. But the director gave the confidence only for do that role. I just first I said no, I don't have confidence to do this role, because can you try with someone, because the industry is not inclusive. We have see this, there is no inclusive for plus women also in Indian cinemas. So I said no, but the miracle happened. Director gave me very confident to do that role. On the time also, I'm living alone. I'm just going through some a lot of issues in my life. So I went there, and there is atmosphere. The atmosphere, I have to tell, very inclusive, and every person, they have to know how to treat a trans artist. Till now, they are the crew will contact with me, and they were very happy for that state award. So yes.
Was there a sensitivity training or something before the film shooting began?
No, definitely no. There is no script before also. They just said, director only said, you are the lead in the character. If I said something, you will overacting, maybe that will happen. I say only on that spot. Whatever they said, I have did that. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Negha. Okay, my next question is to both of you. So, what do you think is the biggest issue facing trans communities in India today? And we see, I was talking to Akkai earlier, and we see a lot of things happening online, right? And people are like, I'm an internet activist or an online activist. That versus what actually happens on the ground, right? So, what do you think is the biggest issue facing trans people in this country today?
Earlier I said we have no job, we have there is no safe place first, there is no recognition in artist field also, so no reservation. We have to speak about it. In Tamil Nadu, there is a lot of trans women fighting their employment and horizontal reservation. Last 2 months we had to protest in roads also for horizontal reservation. So lack of sensation. There is a lot of issues facing trans women. So we can list out many things in that.
I would say the double standards of this state rulers that distracts every other aspect of it. If you go back to the Citizenship Amendment Act, we are also under this process. The NA, the NRC, we are under the process. The Farmers Act, we are part of the process. We are under the process. The Transgender Persons Act, we are under the process. So now, it disturbs me a lot. Why I said the dual stand, the double stand of the state rulers, it's very simple. When the cultural traditional acceptance has been shown up to an extent, people keep quoting Ramayana accepted transgender, Mahabharata accepted transgender, Bible accepted transgender, Quran accepted transgender. When these sacred books has accepted transgender, why not in practical people are not accepted? They show so dual stand of this society and keep on telling old stories. Ragamalika. What are these old stories? Since centuries, people keep saying no. Harihara Putra Ayyappa. Ayyappa is a gay man. Ayyappa is a transgender. He doesn't know the definition of what is gender, what is sex, and what is sexuality. Chumma saying stories. Rama gave some shapa since we came after 14 years. I'm so sorry. I have a lot of respect to my Rama. And Rama means for me, Siya Rama. Sita's Rama I am respecting, not the Rama alone. Very clear. The second part, the Harihara Putra Ayyappa, I just want to give you why I'm saying this dual stand. Because Hari is a man, Hara is a man. Scientifically, on the grounds, two men performing sex equals emerging a child is highly impossible. I want to sit on the science. I want to speak the scientific reasons on this and say yes. And again, people cook the story. Arjuna become a woman in the night. How is it possible? Yeah, I took almost 6 months to be a woman. Sex reassignment surgery process, breast implants, facial therapy, voice therapy. And people assume that I'm asexual. Sorry, I'm a sexual being too. I love, I perform, I'm attracted to, I have my choice, I have my orientation, I have my preferences. So this is what I stand for today, Ragamalika. These are the unspoken words that is distracting my society today. But very frankly telling, people's identity is a crisis. People's living is a crisis. People's caste is something called burning issue in today's society. The Dalit issue in the sexual minority has not been left. Today I'm so disappointed to see the right-wing, upper class wings for sexual minorities. So hurt with these platforms. As an activist, I'm an atheist. For me, caste, gender, religion becomes second, the second least priority. For me, human issues are more important. How do you bring up the global inflation back to the people's voices? How do you survive with dignity? That is my concern. So I think the policy makers are also so difficult. I don't know what word to use to these people, but how do we implement this, understanding these platforms? Talking to this, I think this online activism, I'm not for it here. Frankly telling, I'm not for digital media. Frankly telling, I'm not for formal education.
News Minute is a digital media
organization. And the way these people bring these terminologies, I'm not for formal education. If you may ask why, Akkai, you're not for formal education. Formal education, some 10 people sit and decide what you should study. Then which interaction this social gathering happens? What is education means to me? Interacting like this life to life or person to person, exposing communities to communities. That is what my country needs today. Without knowing that, giving some statement, Muslims are terrorists, Christians are converters, transgender are child kidnappers. How do I accept this sort of notion in my society? How do I, being part of social political activist, I'm 39, 40 years today. I want to live for the next 60 years, but I want to live with pride, with dignity. I want to die in such manner. But today Samaja is not living for that. How do you fight? I think I don't have an answer for your question.
Thanks, Akkai. Negha, you did mention horizontal reservations, right? And that is a very important fight, I believe, in the country. In the 2014 NALSA judgment also, they said, I think, that trans people should have reservations. And the understanding of what this fight for reservation is not very clear, even in the media, right? So one is when 377 fight is happening, media covers it quite a bit. I'm speaking as a media person, but when it comes to Trans Act, when it comes to horizontal reservation, when it comes to these demands, the attention is not as much. So why is horizontal reservation important? And just want to ask the audience if everybody understands what horizontal reservation is, or if I should just explain it a little bit. Okay, cool. So basically we have caste-based reservation in the country right now, and what trans communities are asking for is not reservation under OBC category, but to say that there has to be reservation in each of the categories. So for SC, ST, OBC, EWS, reservation under each of those categories, as well as reservation in the general category for trans persons. So this is the fight, rather than to say all trans persons are OBC, which is not the case, right? There is a lot of diversity within trans communities as well. So why is horizontal reservation important? My question to both of you.
Yeah, because horizontal reservation is a new concept. It's already there. And for a trans person, there is no reservation in Tamil Nadu and other states. Karnataka only has given 1% horizontal reservation. That is the social justice first. If I'm a trans person, few months back, I think a Supreme Court judgment, trans persons are considered as economically and socially weak person. So all the other political parties are consider it as a caste. It's a gender identity, it's a gender problem, and they will think it's a caste problem. They put all the transgenders in OBC category. It is a social justice. where will go the scheduled caste, where will go the scheduled tribe person. They are even losing their basic rights. So it's not a social justice. Horizontal reservation is the only one social justice, I feel so. So we are trying for that, and many of people, media people and politicians know about the reservation, how works, and they don't know about the trans living. That is the big problem, I think. Even if we go to meet the MP, means, oh, this is the problem. Okay, I will talk about this in Parliament. Then they will forget about this. Then we will do this again. Then we will do this again. I think we're gonna die before this horizontal reservation gonna happen.
I would say from a different context on this horizontal reservation, and I want to go beyond the horizontal reservation. And what is it? It's about the political representation in the parliament. That means Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, and Vidhana Parishad. Why, if you ask again, until you are having your voice in the system of legislature, it is very difficult for you to bring any sort of legislative changes, legal changes to this country. So now, even to have this, I was recently heard, if I'm not wrong, the Anglo-Indian 1% reservation was withdrew by the government of India under the existing Prime Minister's rule. And the question was why? And there was no answer. So now, any of this scientific basis, people say 10% of this country's population are sexual minorities, that includes intersex, transgender, female to male to female, and other sexuality minorities. If that's 10% of this country's population is almost 13 crore, the country's population is 1.3 billion, Pooja. That means Nura Muvatu Koti, okay, in 10%, 13 crore, forget 10 crore, 3 crore. Where is the voice? So until you raise this voice, I remember Ambedkar here. Because he was the law minister, the chairperson to draft this constitutional, thing to this largest democracy, he also mentioned any community who needs to enjoy the liberty of the constitutional morality needs to ensure the educational, economic, social, political justice should be enjoyed in such manner. Oh, you get it? Till that you eradicate all forms of discrimination, then there should not be any sort of reservation. So now, as what you mentioned, Negha, we are finding our spaces and struggling with identities, not within. I disagree with the terminological problem. Oh, that's a transgender problem. That's a sexuality problem. It's a marriage equality problem. What is stupid problem? Your mindset are problem for me. The notions are really not open towards accepting our issues and the existence of diversity that we are celebrating and being happy for what we are sitting today. You get it? So in that way, horizontal reservation is very much needed. Beyond that, political representation, equal political representation should be there for cis women, transgender women, and other sexuality minorities. Hi.
Thanks, Akkai. Negha, medical negligence is another big problem that faces trans communities. So, yeah, can you speak a little about that?
Because nobody talking about that medical negligence and medical care in trans persons in India particularly. There is no doctors in, they treat the trans bodies well, I think so. We have many times talking about them, but there is no solution for this. By government or medically something. There is a lot of trans persons attempt suicide in the medical negligence. We have the cases like in Kerala or Tamil Nadu, whatever it is. So I just want to talk about this. Okay, இந்த விஷயத்தை மட்டும் நான் தமிழ்லேயே சொல்லணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நினைக்கிறேன். ஏன்னா மேபி டிரான்ஸ்லேட் பண்ணுறது. ஸோ ரொம்ப நாளாக இந்த டிரான்சிஷன் அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து ட்ரான்ஸ் பாடிக்கு வெரி வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் அண்ட் வி ஆல் நோ டிரான்சிஷன் வந்து சேவ்ஸ் லைஃப்ஸ், ட்ரான்ஸ் லைஃப்ஸ். ஸோ அப்படி இருக்கும்போது என்னோட பாடியில் ஒவ்வொரு விஷயமும் ஐ ஃபீல் லைக் பார்க்கும்போது ஹாவ் டு நான் அதை வந்து வாழ்கிறேன்னு ஃபீல் பண்ணணும். அட்லீஸ்ட் இது ஏன் பண்ணிட்டோமே அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஃபீல் பண்ணக்கூடாது. நான் இவ்வளோ லைஃப் ஸ்ட்ரகிள்ஸ் இருக்குது, இவ்வளோ லிவிங் ஆஃப் காஸ்ட் எனக்கு இருக்குது, எனக்கு எனக்கு வேலை இல்லை, எதுவுமே இல்லாத போகும். இந்த ஐ நீட் டு நான் வெளியில் போய் பெக் பண்ணுறேன், செக்ஸ் ஒர்க் பண்ணுறேன், இந்த மணியெல்லாம் கலெக்ட் பண்ணிவிட்டு அந்த டிரான்சிஷனாவது இந்த கண்ட்ரி எனக்கு ரொம்ப வேலிடாக கொடுக்கணும். பட் இட் டசன்ட். அந்த பணத்தையும் வாங்கி வச்சுட்டு இந்த டாக்டர்ஸ் வந்து அந்த பெர்ஃபார்மன்ஸை அது சரியாக பண்ணுறதில்ல. அட்லீஸ்ட் நாங்கள் இதெல்லாம் பண்ணுறதில்ல, வி ஆர் நாட் கேப்பபிள் ஆஃப் திஸ்ன்னு கூட சொல்கிறதுக்கு அவங்களுக்கு இல்லை. அந்த பணத்தையும் வாங்கி வச்சுட்டு தே பெர்ஃபார்ம் சம்திங். அண்ட் தெர் இஸ் லாட் ஆஃப் இந்த இதில் வந்து மெடிக்கல் சர்ஜரிக்கு ஒரு ஹிஸ்ட்ரியே இருக்குது. ட்ரான்ஸ் பர்சனோட வேணும் அந்த தாயமா சிஸ்டம், அப்புறம் வந்து இப்போ மெடிக்கலி இருக்குது, அண்ட் மெடிக்கலி இன்னும் வந்து அது அடுத்த ரெவல்யூஷனுக்கு போகுது. அப்போ அப்படி இருக்கும்போது இந்த விஷயத்தை ஏன் யாருமே பேசலை அண்ட் யாருமே ஐடென்டிஃபை பண்ணலை அப்படின்றது இருக்குது. ஸோ இந்த இடத்துல வந்து இந்த ஒவ்வொரு ப்ரைட் மந்த்தும் எவ்ரி டைம் வி ஜஸ்ட் talk about trans women means we have to mention also this.
Thank you, Negha. Just a translation. She's talking about how surgeries for trans persons, the medical transition process, it's not done properly by the medical establishment in the country. And trans women, trans persons have to do begging and sex work to collect money, despite all of the other financial struggles that they have. They collect money, they save money in order to go through these medical transition procedures. And even after all of that, when they expect the medical establishment to do right by them, but these doctors who don't know what they're doing just take the money. They don't even explain properly what they can and cannot do. They may not have the capability to perform these surgeries or give hormones and all of that, and yet they just take the money, and this is leading to a lot of issues, including suicide attempts among trans persons.
Actually, it's an institutional murder. There is no other than if they practicing trans, it's become a very political medically, they said actually if they are doing perform well in SRS means they just what should I say, they are charging for the hospital and the fees. So that is also a problem for trans community, right, where they will go for that money. So that is also a big problem.
You have any thoughts? Yes. Thanks. Thank you, Akkai. So one question again to both of you is, so there is, one on the one side people say, all sexual and gender minorities are influenced by the West, right? So as if our identities don't matter, or this has come from somewhere. But one thing that I have noticed in the recent past is that there is a lot of imported transphobia in this country today. So people are talking about transphobia people are being transphobic by learning from their friends in UK and US, right? So they talk about changing rooms. There is no concept of a changing room in India as far as I know. I don't know, maybe some elite schools have them, but there is no concept of like an open space where people are like changing. You have stalls in bathrooms, and yet all of this sort of turf or GC nonsense coming from outside into India, even though they know the reality of trans persons in India. They witness trans people doing begging. They know the kind of poverty and the kind of discrimination that trans persons face in the country. And yet there is this very disconnected debate that happens again mainly in online spaces. This is perhaps not on the ground. So what do you have any thoughts on this imported transphobia?
I have a couple of observations to place it before this forum. Number one, each country has its own specific amount of issues when it comes to sexual minorities. Each region, each state, each district, each area has its own stuff. If I want to give some examples of Jogappa, Marladi, Shiv Shakti, Jogta, Akwa, Nirvan, Satla, Pantisatla, etc. identities, and LGBTQI++, and MSM transgender. So these are the terminologies are used from different perspectives to address different issues. If that is the thing, what you have raised the question, Ragamalika, why people are organizing G20 summit, which means G20 consists of Western and other so-called, relevant parts of the world. You get it? I'm so surprised why my Prime Minister is not a homosexual yet, if it is so influenced. So, this is not about influencing any sort of thing. My country has Hazard to crores of crores issues to be addressed today. You get it? I'm struggling for identity. My baby is Avin, just 3 years, 9 months.
Yes, Amin.
Tomorrow, I'm really scared to see tomorrow's society, how the society will accept Avin, because Avin's mother is a transgender woman. I was a sex worker, I was a beggar. How does that influence to my tomorrow's child society is my concern today. And what is my state's responsibility? What is my social responsibility comes there. In that manner, as a whole community, we are struggling with issues of identities, issues on sexualities, family non-acceptance. Medicalization process totally been shrinked. And Baba Ramdev says, homosexuality can be cured through doing meditation, what is it? Dhyana, no? Yoga. Oh, I am doing daily yoga, meditation. I am not even back to a man or a heterosexual man. So I'm so sorry. I am perfect. No yogas, no meditations. So leave all this notion. And this whole issue has really, messed up with people, and people still caring about myth and misconception. What the mythology speaks. Mythology says truth and trust are part of human lives. Until we address the truth and trust, it is so difficult for to combat any sort of thing. It is not about Western, it is not about Indian, it is not about South Asian, it's about people's issue. How do we stand in solidarity? There are black communities in different parts of the world who are still facing discrimination because they are black and sexual minorities. There are white-skinned people and sexual minorities. There are Dalit and sexual minorities, and many pluses. In my country, Muslims are not safe, Christians are not safe, sexual minorities, we are even not safe. But my country, I feel so proud to be in India. If you ask me why, because I am part of such a beautiful plurality, fraternity, social justice perspectives, Ambedkar written constitution. That's what my Supreme Court has upheld today. Enjoy the liberty of constitution, morality than your moralities. You get it? So that's why I say dual stand nilisi nammannu oppikolli ashte.
Thank you, okay. Negha?
First thing, transphobia should be considered as a severe form of violence. First thing. So before people don't know about transphobia and they are doing that. Nowadays, people they are know what they are doing. They know about transphobia and they are still doing it. So we have to eliminate the transphobia in the society, because transphobia is also a social issues like sexism, racism, whatever on this. That's my point.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll take some questions from the audience now. Does anybody have a question for Akkai or Negha? 2 people. Yeah. Okay, there's a mic there. Okay. Negha.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
Akkai, for you. You mentioned something very interesting about the policy making. In your experience, what do you think will affect policy making from we've been protesting for so long, we've been fighting for so long. As a queer person myself, asking you, where do you think policy can be affected? How do you think in the current climate can it be affected?
If you go back to the Karnataka state policy for transgender, the previous Congress government, which constituted a committee in 2014, and I was a drafting committee member, all the committee members are not really well versed about sexuality, gender, whatever. And as a community representation made so much of changes. And what we asked, that was in the policy. Same thing also replicated in the Kerala government. 2016, Justice P. Sathashivam was the former governor of Kerala, and that was the state which brought immediate implementation of policy. So the policy needs of hearing people, listening to the voices, and what we want, that should be in my paper. And paper should be implemented. To implement, you also need to be allocated some amount of funding. That's the budget. What happened to the Transgender Act of 2019-2020? The whole country was agitating against CAA. What is CAA? No. Country agitating against Citizenship Amendment Act. The whole country was fighting against this. Farmers Act was passed, CAA was passed, Transgender Act was passed, and I want to take my objection here to this forum. It was consulted by very few sexual minorities from North India, very numeric numbers from South India were part of such consultation. We were denied by the Parliament of Rights to meet and submit the working class representation in that policy making decision. And it shows that how it neglected certain voices of section. You got it? You cannot compare the North Indian transgender, South Indian transgender, Bangalore transgender, and Bombay transgender. You get it? In that manner, and it's also a process of understanding identities. People say that gender non-binary, I'm queer, intergender, intersex. As an activist, I'm still in the process of understanding, but how do you bring this education to the larger public? To your parents, to your teachers, to your schooling, to education institutions, to universities, to vice chancellors. I want to say this one joke. Not joke actually. Someone asked me, Ragamalika, madam, what is your qualification and what is your up to? And you're a doctorate holder. I'm a 10th standard mathematics failed person, Ashte. I studied in Bengaluru High Secondary School, Ashte. But I am the vice chancellor for the existing vice chancellors of this country on gender and sexuality. No vice chancellors are thorough about sex, gender, sexuality. No parliamentarians are thorough about sex, gender, sexuality. I want to be teacher at least for one day to them and then die. At least I can bring that change, Ragamalika. So now the policy here, what we're talking, 2017 policy, October month, it was accepted by the cabinet. Unfortunately, the previous government didn't implement. And today, the ruling government has a beautiful manifesto that accepts, at least for the first step, of transgender people to constitute a welfare board to speak every other aspects of welfare measure. Again, it's our duty to put pressure on the government to ensure that it will be implemented.
As a journalist, I have a question, follow up to this. What happened to the reservation? Has it been implemented in the state?
Now, it is all, I'll say this in Kannada, Kannu Varesuva Tantra. Eyewash, Alvama? Eyewash strategy. A strategy for eyewash. Okay. So this is what has happened. Nothing much. So now this has to implement it across. And I'm so happy my people have occupied these spaces in, I know, like under the one person reservation. People are working as, village accountants in different parts of talukas of the country. As teachers and working in the courts, working with judiciary, working with judicial academies. I feel so happy. This is what the change we are seeing. And my, what is the book called? The Small Step in the Long Journey, Kannadalli, Karunegondu Savalu has become text to 15 universities of the state. Almost 40-50 lakh students are studying this issue. You get it? This is what really change means to me. Yeah.
Thank you. Just for context, for anybody who hasn't followed the case very closely, although the law is called the Transgender Person Protection of Rights Act, it has been opposed by most trans people and trans communities across the country because it doesn't actually protect
And especially
rights.
in South India.
Especially in the
We
South.
don't want protection. What is protection? Transgender product people don't protect it. We want to be part of the mainstreaming. Transgender Social Mainstreaming Act. Also, how do you phrase this terminology is my concern as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah.
Actually, my question was what Ragamalika ma'am asked regarding the implementation. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so it was about to what extent is the State Reservation Act, the 1% reservation has been implemented, and what are your demands at the moment to open up some arenas in the job spectrum from the government's end out here is what?
If you ask me the demand from A to Z, everything has to be implemented by the state. And society need to accept it. That's the two strategies we want to build. Number one, the Section 370 Supreme Court verdict which came in 2018. The state amendment needs to happen. It's a federal law. You got it? And Parliament has not even touched the paper today yet. So we are saying, at least for the state, South India, we have some sort of governments which that listens to people, which hears to people. Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, hopefully, okay, that way. So now state amendment on section 3 says consenting adults to live together, to lead a life with dignity. Transgender thing from A to Z we want, as I mentioned, ella bekagide. You got it? And no such criminal law should be brought again back. You get it? People who discriminate us, how do you talk the issues of punishment or sensitization or education or awareness? I stand for awareness, public education, discourse and debate than punishment. I am not for death penalty. People say, no, if you are discriminating, if you are sexually abusing, assaulting, raped, kill them. Hang, what do you call it? Hang off. Hang them. They say that. I'm not for hanging, ma. It's a human rights violation. And we can't do so. So that way, sexual minorities, we're here to be part of so-called mainstreaming society than want to punish them. So we don't want to punish, we want to be part of mainstream. And there's a whole demand in such manner.
Thank you.
Negha, do you want to add something to this? Because I know you worked in a lot of NGOs as well and as a mental health counselor. So what are the issues that people come to you with?
I just have to mention this case. Five trans women who just want to become constables in Tamil Nadu. The cases are happening till today, but there is various reasons they are denied by the uniform department. They said you have a little bit height. Maybe you cannot compete with whatever it is, because there is no reservation because they don't have that job. So first thing I have to mention this: there is no employment. I think people want to breathe at least in the society. They just want to live with dignity. If people say if they go somewhere, means there is no respect for a trans woman. Still, wherever we go, there is a little bit misconception or anything about trans people. So that is the first thing people come to us. There is a lot of crisis about mental health, physical violence, domestic violence about about parents, and also conversion therapies nowadays. Yeah.
Thanks, Negha. Any other questions? Yeah, Pooja.
Akkai, I just want to know from you, we've seen how you've had to struggle for basic rights, like you mentioned, from getting a passport to be able to marry the person of your choice, the person you love. How has it been since you've entered active politics? I want to know about the struggles. I know that you can't talk about everything that happens. How has it been in terms of being able to influence policy or being able to take up issues and also be part of other conversations that happens in the political spectrum?
I want to speak very frankly, outspoken. If there's a problem, I should also speak the problem, address the problem, and other strategies to make it jump. The party I'm part of is International Congress, being part of Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee, okay, and I'm the state general secretary. And I'm the only one person to be in such a high designated position, which was, recognized by the President D.K. Shivkumar. Okay, and of course, talking to the Rahul Gandhi's office, to many other, being part of socially, recognized by society in that manner, closely working on this issue. I think the amount of knowledge on gender and sexuality, you have your space in the party system. On Section 377. On human sexuality judgments, on marriage equality, at least some space on sex work legalization stuff which the judgment came into. So there weren't people who were speaking this in open spaces. But I think my entry to the politics has really made some space, and that space equals to hopes. You get it? I want to live with the hopes. I think number two, it is not so easy to change such a national party's perspective very soon and immediately. It takes its own course of time. Rahul Gandhi, 2009, the Delhi High Court judgment came, and he said very clearly it's about two consenting adults and what is my business. And on the marriage equality, it's about people's relationship, why I should be bothered. But what is the government of India stand today? RSS, that's Rashtriya Sarvanash Sangha, oh I'm sorry, Rashtriya Seva Sangha. They are coming and doing press conference and fighting against our marriage equality. Are we asking them to marry us? No, sweetheart. I want to marry the person who I'm raised in love with, not fall in love with. You got it? So Higidaga, it is so difficult situation, but how do we encounter those process? How many community voices are there to speak about this? And I'm so disappointed, Ragamalika. Recently, Chaguvara issue was so misinterpreted. ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನ ಉಲ್ಟಾ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ. How Tipu Sultan Itihas history was been totally polarized in such manner. Same thing, Chaguvara was anti-sexual minorities. This was said by Vasudendra, the gay man, the gay writer. I want to take my objection. Chaguvara was never been against sexual minorities so far, and all his books has never spoken about anything such. This is such a misinterpretation of Chaguvara talking anti-people. He was favor of women's rights, favor of labor movement, favor in fighting against power politics across the globe, and he fought against the so-called United States of America's power. In that way, people in misinterpreting about this sort of feminist, Leninist or liberal political stuff like that, how do you bring this discourse to the platform is my concern, Ragamalika. You cannot say false in the history. In India, I know what has happened since 30 years. Before 30, I really don't know what has happened. And I don't want to go for Ramayana Mahabharata story. I want to say this is what I am facing discrimination, and where is my Rama, where is my Allah, where is my Jesus, where is my Mary? I want to ask this. And where is also my constitutional morality? I want to depend, I want to die under the constitutional morality. This is what I wanted to bring. But changing the national party's perspective is not so easy. Maybe Akkai's voice of 100 should come inside the system and then take it to the next level. But party is quite open to listen, to hear, to bring the thing. I think our representation has made Karnataka manifesto in such manner to accept the way it was.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. So then my last question to both of you, and I'll start with Negha. What is some cishet people in the audience, and lots of cishet people will be watching us online. So what is your message to them? Because a lot of people say, oh, you know, we want to be good allies, but we don't know how. Right? So how can we be good allies?
So first, respect their pronouns. Start with that, please. So we have the responsibility to educate society. Also, they have to learn from us, because we queer people have to occupy the cine field, in the media field also, because we are uneducated, we are discontinued from studies. So society have to what should I say? They have to learn from our stories, you know, and stand up when you see against transphobia. You are seeing I am the greatest example for uneducation, you know. I'm just struggling to say my words.
You're not. I think you should not say that.
Like that. No, maybe it will help to the maybe audience adu puriyum innum vandu how the trans people are really struggling when they are know the things. Yeah.
Ragamalika, you put me in the cage and asking this question. Why heterosexuals should be allies for sexual minorities? Why shouldn't sexual minorities be the allies of heterosexuals?
I have an objection to that. I don't support their lifestyle.
You can't even object here because you don't have any issue to object. If you ask me why, because that is their life and this is my life. How do we respect each other's life is my concern. Them being an ally, supporter, solidarity, bedama. So we are human beings born. I won't accept the way you are in short hair and accept me with malli poo and long hair. This beautiful saree, I am a traditionally Indian woman. So I think heterosexuals, please don't become like Sushil Kumar Modi, who stood in the parliament who was saying that this is urban elite issue. I am an urban poor. You have no right to decide my class and caste and my background. If that's so, you're unfit to be in such position. There are so many such heterosexual mentalities who are in society. How do you fight this society is my concern. If that's so, we will be, as I mentioned, objection. Saying that the concept of majoritarian, totalitarian equals to impotent. your notion becomes important. Finally, lives is called humanity, love, lives, joys, and our rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, thank you everybody for coming today. I want to call Pooja on stage to give out a token of our appreciation to Akkai, Negha, and to Hilary. If you can please come on stage.
I also have this rainbow flag on my biography to give it to.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And perhaps all the queer people in the room can also meditate for 5 minutes and see if we convert or something. Thank you so much. Pooja, please. Oh, okay. Yes. So just a small token of our appreciation for all three of you. Thank you so much for coming today and speaking to us. Yes. And afterwards, if everybody can come on stage, one picture here, and then if everybody can come on stage here as well.